There you go. Okay.
Oops.
Okay. But it makes it look more than when you're sitting down. We really see it in the hospital when people are laying in bed 24/7, because that's not normal. If we get them up and move them around some, they get better faster. You don't rest your way to better health. You move your way to better health. So it promotes cardiovascular health, your heart, lungs, and blood vessels, just from that increased pumping, and then all of the hormones that increase when the body starts moving, and that's just moves good for you. It improves the remodeling of nerve fibers in the brain and strengthens connections. So the brain, the nerve fibers of the brain, they kind of grow literally like a seedling, a sprout in the garden. You can sprout new cells in your brain, and then they go to where they're being asked to go by what your body is doing and what activity you're doing with your eyes, your senses. And so doing things promotes more plasticity, more growth and improvement of things. Again, because of the increased circulation that happens when you're moving your body, whether you mean to or not, it reduces inflammation in the body, because as the blood vessels are pumped through all the various body's mechanisms, it helps to filter out inflammation. And then you end up having lower levels of stress hormone, improves mood, improves memory. Can anyone else think of any other ways that exercise is good for your brain that you've read about or heard about? Or is that kind of a laundry list?
I don't know if you mentioned mood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely can improve mood. And I certainly have experienced that. What I find is the hardest thing for me to do is to stop what I'm doing and get out the door and do something. And once I'm doing it, I feel great, and afterwards I feel great too.
Right.
It's just that usually we're our own worst, because we talk ourselves out of it. We have other things to do. And if you just figure out time to do it, you're gonna feel better for it.
And I've had that problem with I get really tired and I just think, oh, I have jazzercise that I go to.
Yeah.
I don't feel like going to jazzercise or taking a walk. But then once I do it,
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
So like, I should do this next time.
Yeah.
And the next time you're like, oh, I'm just gonna watch instead.
That's right.
Next time I'll do it.
I'll watch people exercise.
Yeah.
I was taking a class during the pandemic. It was a Zoom class.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things they said was, we can get up and go outside, take a picture,
Yeah.
you're at the Zoom,
Uh-huh.
class, and they said, get up and go. They said, take a picture of you before you go, and then take a picture of you when you
Okay.
get back.
Oh,
Your eyes are brighter.
Yeah, everything is just different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're not as
So-
pasty. That's from the increased blood
Yeah.
flow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was, of course, I didn't keep up that
Yeah.
practice, but, I'm taking my picture, because
Right.
no one wants to look at themselves. But it's amazing
Yeah.
how different you look.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe anyway.
I'm gonna do that.
mhm.
So think of the body as a machine. So you've got the old car that's parked in a barn that's never touched and never driven for years and years and years. Then it just rusts, it just falls apart, right? And then you got the sports car, the professional athletes, the people, those lucky people, well, maybe lucky, maybe not. They get paid, their whole livelihood involves physical performance, and so they constantly train their body. And then the old trusty, that's my car. That's not my actual car, but I drive a silver Honda 2002. Still runs great. And it runs great because I get the oil changed, I keep it halfway clean as best I can. It gets driven probably 6 days a week. And so it's lasted me since 2002, and it's still running great. And now my oldest kid is gonna learn how to drive on it this summer. He drove it once already, and it did great. So how much do you need? These recommendations don't change that much. I've worked in healthcare for over 20 years now. And it's kind of funny how over the years, it's kind of the public health recommendations have gone from you need, it used to be like unattainable, and then it got down to like anything, just do anything. Anything's better than nothing. And now most of what we see in government stuff that they look at dozens of studies, and then they have these core teams of people that work together and figure things out, is 150 minutes a week of something that makes your heart rate go up a little bit. And it can be all at once. If you're a glutton for punishment and you want to go out and work hard for 3 hours, 180 minutes, that's better for your body than not doing anything. But there's a cumulative effect. So even if you're doing things in 10-minute bouts, a couple times a day throughout the week, if you can get 150 minutes of exercise, half an hour, 5 days a week, 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, that's 140 minutes. That's pretty close. That's really good for you. And it doesn't have to involve wearing fancy clothing and using special equipment and going special places. It can be literally just walking around. If you're just up and moving around, even if you don't think I'm exercising right now, even if you just are like walking the dog or you're taking a stroll in the park, that's still activity. That's considered exercise as far as your body goes. The other recommendation is at least 2 days a week of strengthening activities. And we're going to go through some things later on ways that you can work on strengthening. That's really good. Actually, more muscle makes your body burn more calories. And so it actually helps with weight loss. Weight loss isn't just revving up your aerobic system and burning calories through the increased heart rate for periods of time. Also just using your muscles and getting stronger. Bigger muscles burn more calories. And so strengthening activities can help with weight loss as well. So moderate intensity aerobic activity. So that means like if you're walking around very slow, that's good for you. It's better than nothing. But if you're walking, we used to call it when I work in cardiac rehab, late for a meeting pace. So you know how that's just how I live my life. I'm just always walking around like in the parking lot, in the big giant new hospital building. It's a brisk walk. And if you're walking somewhat briskly, and you still can chit chat with people as you're walking, but sometimes you got to stop and take a breath. That's kind of the pace that's really beneficial for your body. Now, if you don't like that, you don't tolerate it, then just simply walking or sitting on a stationary bike, doing something for 10 minutes at a time is good for you. Okay. So all those different muscle groups, and I think what I talk about in therapy with people, the best exercise to do is a mini squat. Because every time you stand up and sit down off the edge of the bed or the couch or a chair or the toilet, you're squatting. So this is the most functional exercise there is for you. And it also works all the major muscle groups of the legs, the calves, the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. That's all the muscles. And so just now you can stand up and sit down off of a chair, or you can squat down and barely touch your bottom and then stand up. That's a fantastic exercise to do. And that counts as strengthening, and that's very functional for you.
Can I ask a question about that one?
Yeah.
You have back issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that matters what you do with your back when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. So well, you want to keep your back straight. You don't basically if you move and it hurts, you shouldn't hold that position. So as you're squatting down, you want to keep your back straight as you squat versus because then you feel a strain. Yeah, if you feel a strain, you shouldn't keep doing it. So what's the best kind of exercise? Number one, it's the kind that you're doing more than once a week, a couple, 3 times a week. That's good. And anything's better than nothing. And again, walking, squatting is a very functional, strengthening exercise. Walking is a very functional exercise because that's how we move. That's how people move around. And so the more we do of it, the better. So a lot of people have negative connotations about exercise. Sometimes it's because of personal life experience, and sometimes it's from hearing horror stories from other people. And physical therapists have been accused of being physical torturists. And what I tend to tell people is that usually you're coming to therapy because something hurts. I don't want to make you hurt more. The exception is after a knee replacement, you got to push through the pain to get that knee bending back. But other than that, exercise shouldn't be painful. If it hurts, you can always back off, you can always change what you're doing. You shouldn't have to endure exercise. You should be able to, whether you enjoy it or you just can do it, exercise shouldn't hurt when you're doing it. Any type of movement is exercise. You don't have to sit here and think, I have to do this for 20 minutes. How boring is that, right? Now, some people get a kick out of it. They like all the fun toys and they like to play with exercise toys and they like doing that. Other people, they're like, what on earth is this? I'm gonna wake you with it. But they like yard work. They like walking down a path. They like whatever. So it's like whatever floats your boat, whatever you like, that's what you should do. Activity trackers can help. Does anyone have a Fitbit or a smartwatch or something? So it looks, okay, I'm preaching to the choir. I love the idea of a Fitbit when they first came out. It was probably 10 years ago now. So I've had like 5 different ones because they break, they don't last forever. So I just get a new one. I'm gonna switch to the Apple Watch. I was the last person in my family to get an iPhone, literally out of like 20 people. So now that I have an iPhone, I'm gonna get an Apple Watch. But I've always had a Fitbit, and what I like is it, whether you're shooting for 10,000 steps a day or a certain arbitrary amount, that's good. And then the app that's attached to it, you can track your progress and you can look back over the weeks and months. But really what I love is, depending on my day, if I have a day where I'm sitting at a desk or I stand at my desk, but I'm not moving around a lot and I'm done with work and I only have like 4,000 steps, I'm gonna try to be more active that evening. If I have a day like today where I'm running back and across, I'm gonna have 12,000 steps by the time I get home. I still have to mow my mom's lawn tonight, so this is gonna be like a 15,000 step day for me. Some people are like, oh my gosh, how do you do 15,000 steps? I don't even know, I just walk around. And at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, that was a big day. But all I use it for, I'm not actively saying I'm gonna have this number of steps a day or else I'm not going to sleep unless I hit it. That's not how I operate. But what I like to do is just for it to see, like, yeah, I haven't done a lot today, to come to think of it. I better try to be a little bit more active this evening, whether I'm walking on a treadmill or I'm just walking the dog or I'm doing some yard work. So you can just kind of use it as a gauge. Now, some people like to, with these things, like you can like sign up in groups and you can compete against each other good naturedly, or sometimes it gets a little out of hand. That's not my bag. I've never done that. I never intend to. I don't get any motivation out of that. But some people like that little bit of friendly competition, and it helps them to be a little bit more active than if they weren't competing against one friend or their kid or whatever that looks like. So,
I
yeah.
would add something about the person who lives with someone who has dementia.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like being alone.
Yes.
And I like the fact that my watch cares about me
Yeah.
and sends me sparkly rings and acknowledges.
Yeah. Sometimes when you hit a threshold, it'll say, hey, good job, you did this. You've been
Yeah.
active for 50 minutes in a row
I
or
used to have a
whatever.
record of the best.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, well, the watch cares, even nobody else knows.
It caught it.
Yeah, so that works for me.
That's good. Now, where 10,000 steps, I looked this up. I love super trivia like this. It literally it was a marketing ploy by that device by a Japanese company in the 1960s. And then somehow, and then some more research got done over the years. And a study just from last year found that 7,000 steps a day is a pretty good threshold for general health. People that walked less than 7,000 steps a day have poorer health outcomes than people that walk 7,000 steps or more per day. And that's average over the course of the week. So that's not like 7,000, maybe they did, so 7,000 times 7 is 49,000, about 50,000 steps in a week. So if someone only had 20,000 steps a week, they're not moving very much. And predictably, if they're not moving very much, their health might not be in as good a shape. Either they're not moving because they're in poor health, or they're not in very good health because they're not moving. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. So 10,000 steps a day is great, but if you are like, no, my goodness, I can't do that for whatever reason, 7,000 is good. Another way to think of it is if you've been wearing one or you're starting to wear one, you think, okay, this is my baseline. The first 3 weeks that I wore this thing, I was doing this much. And I want to do a little bit more. So I'm going to track this and I'm going to try to do a little bit more every day. And then I'll see at the end of the week how many more steps I had than last week. Exercise options. Number one, take a quick walk. So a slow walk is better than no walk, but a quick walk or a somewhat quick walk is better than walking as slowly as you can. Again, just think about just doing stuff as activity, do some housework, do some yard work. You can use equipment either at home or at a fitness club. There are a million options in Bloomington. Bloomington's a great community to have options. Some of the smaller towns might have one or two options, but they don't have 6 or 7 or 8 like Bloomington does. And you don't have to be a Bloomington resident to use these things. You know, if you live in one of the outside smaller communities, you can come in town a couple, 3 days a week and use the facilities. Another option now, the internet has transformed. It used to be exercise videos and DVDs, but now everything, as long as you have an internet connection, you can look at stuff on your phone or on your iPad, on your computer, or you can connect through your TV, and then you can do exercise classes online. I have not specifically used Join, but someone on our this brain health excellence and committee uses Join and talked about it, and she loves it. And like you jump on and you log in, and I think it's free to join. And then there's all sorts of different types of exercise classes that you can do on demand. Sometimes they're live, and it's in your packet.
What's the name of it? The
Join,
It's right there at the bottom.
Joyn.
Oh.
And so,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, and then you can like search by classes. It's just it's actually co.com for whatever reason, join.co. Maybe it comes from a different country like Australia or Britain or something. So yeah, I mean, check that out, see what you think. One of my sisters lives up in Indy, and she lives in an apartment and has a dog, doesn't have a lot of room, doesn't want to go to a health club, works in a bank and wants to come home to her dog at night and not leave again. And so she bought a exercise bike at Target, I don't know what brand it was, and she joined Peloton and does Peloton classes on her non-Peloton bike. But she likes that. And so Peloton started off as just bikes, and now they got all sorts of other stuff too. So that's another one. I think with Peloton, it's like $30 a month. I'm not sure what it is. $12 a month. So that's really, do you do it?
I think the same thing,
Yeah.
she does.
So it doesn't matter what it is, it's whatever you like. It's either whatever you like the most or whatever you hate the least and can tolerate. And that's the type that you should do.
There's tons of stuff on YouTube. I use YouTube all the time. I love that, walking with somebody in Chicago. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's outside.
Yeah,
It's fun.
that's great. And you can connect your TV to the internet, so you don't have to do everything through a little screen. You can just, and if you don't know how to do it, find someone in your life that can show you how. And then you can watch stuff on your big TV screen and not have to be squinting at a smaller screen.
And a grandchild.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
My dad calls me for stuff like that. and I'm like,
Yes, tech support.
yeah, I don't know how to do that. You're gonna have to ask one of the kids. I'm like, I'm asking them now.
That's right.
I don't wanna do that anymore.
Now, you don't have to use, I mean, lifting weights, it's just lifting a weight. It doesn't have to be a barbell or a dumbbell or a kettlebell or any bell. It can be any object that weighs something, as long as you can hang on to it well, you can use that. So whether it is, and the beauty of milk and laundry detergent jugs is if a full gallon of milk is too heavy for you, don't use the actual milk, use an empty one and just fill it as much as you want. So it's a nice amount of resistance, but it's not too heavy for you. And then if it gets easy, then you add a little more water to it. And so, I mean, you can literally, and a soup can, what I like to say is a regular size soup can weighs about a pound. And then a chunky soup can weighs a little bit more. So when you start off with some exercises, you literally can just use soup cans. Inanimate objects in the house if you don't want to buy fancy equipment. Anything else, household items that you use to help facilitate some exercise, or you've heard about or seen? Okay. All right, let's try a few exercises. Okay, so everyone stand up behind your chair. So that now here, these chairs have wheels on them. We like to say at home, when you're using a high back chair, don't use the ones in your kitchen that have wheels on them because they're not very stable. Looks like everyone here it has pretty good baseline balance. And so I think it's gonna be all right to just push your chair up to your table and it's pretty steady. And so I got ahead of myself, seated in chair. Let's do the standing ones. So the first thing you do is what I found with high knees, when you're hanging onto the high back chair or you're standing at the kitchen counter in front of the sink, sometimes when you're doing high knees, you'll hit the sink or the chair. So I like to turn to a side and still hang on with one hand. And then you can just do high knee marches. Now, some people like to do alternating because that's how you walk. Some people like to just do repeated repetitions on one leg for 5 to 10 repetitions and then switch to the other leg. But the idea with this is don't be in a hurry to like, I'm gonna do as fast as I can. It's more about the quality. So think about, I want to get that knee up high and try to keep my balance. So that's a good one to do. Okay. Another one is mini squats. And so I already did that one where I was sitting down in a chair. You can also just hang on and then you can drop your bottom like you're gonna sit in a chair and then stand up. Now, the thing that I tell people in the clinic is what I want, as you're squatting, I want you to look down at your toes. I don't want your kneecaps to cover your toes. So you're kind of dropping your bottom.
I dropped mine.
There you go. So, and look, I'll do this to make a point. So if I lead with my knees and I drop way down, I feel a lot of pressure in my kneecaps. And I can't see my toes because my thighs are covering my toes. But if I lead with my bottom and I'm squatting down, I'm feeling the strain through my thighs and my bottom, and I can still see my toes as I'm looking down. Yeah. And again, you can hang on with one hand if you want to as well. I mean, you can do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe.
Feet apart, right?
Feet about shoulder width apart. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, another one to do is kickbacks. So as you're standing, again, whether you're facing what you're hanging on to, or you're just hanging on with one hand, I'm gonna face. You just kind of kick your legs back. So the reason this one is good, this isn't a very functional movement. This isn't a movement that you make very often during your day, but it works your back a little bit. And it also works your balance because every time you're kicking back, you're standing on one leg momentarily. Okay. And then the last one for standing behind the chair or at the counter is single leg balance. And so the beauty of balance is you can always challenge yourself to do more. So you can start off just stand with one leg off the floor and you can hang on for balance. You can put one fingertip or two fingertips down if that's what you need to do. But the idea is you're going to stand there until either you start to get wobbly or you start to feel a burn right here and you need to take a break and you need to switch to the other side. And all the research with balance shows that people that practice balance exercise on a regular basis have better balance and fewer falls than people that don't do balance exercise. So this is a very common thing we do with people when they come into the clinic because of balance issues and stumbles and stuff. And when they start to do regular balance exercises every day, their balance gets better and then they're less likely to fall. Good, okay. Let's go back. Why don't you pull your chair out and let's sit back down. So gas pedals with your feet. So you just kick your one foot out in front and you just push your foot all the way down and bring it up. All the way down and bring it up. And do that 5 or 10 times. Now these are great because you can do these when you're just sitting, watching TV or reading a book or whatever. And what's nice about this one, okay, let's switch legs, is this works on your ankle range of motion, and ankle range of motion is actually tied to balance. People that have, when I measure in the clinic, if I have my little goniometer, I'm measuring how high someone can lift their foot, that's dorsiflexion. People that don't have very much dorsiflexion, their balance isn't as good and their reaction time isn't as good. So you need to be able to move your ankle through its full range of motion in order to have optimal balance, and easier to walk. Okay.
Question, I just don't consider it laying on the ground.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is that the same?
That's the same. The important thing is you're putting that ankle through its range of motion, not where you happen to be sitting.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what you could also do if you do two legs at once and you're doing this, then you're working your core a little bit as well. You'll feel it more. So now you don't just have to do gas pedals. It's also, you could do circles one way, circles the other way. You can draw the alphabet with your big toe. You know, whatever you can do to convince you to sit there and move your feet around. So another one, I call these kickouts. And so then you're just kicking your leg out in front of you and then bringing it down. And again, you could do 5 or 10 on one leg and switch, or you can just alternate legs. This is a great exercise because this really targets your quadriceps, the 4 muscles on top of your thighs. And the stronger these muscles are, the easier it is to stand up and sit down. So you can even put you can buy a little ankle weight at the store or online and put it around your ankle, and then that will increase the resistance of doing these kickouts. Okay. And then we have let's pass out the pair bands. Or do they have them in
So
the bag?
everybody's got them in your bag.
Yeah, so you can,
Can't remember, the blue one's the hardest. I can't remember between green and yellow which one's
I don't know, I think probably yellow.
yellow.
And again, you know, if you can search TheraBand exercises online and or on YouTube, and you can see stuff. We give this stuff out in the clinic all the time. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this resistive stuff. And so like you can kind of hold it in a loop and then you can just kind of pull up against it for some resistance for your biceps. And if it's too hard, then just make it longer and there's less resistance when you're pulling it up. You can like hang on to it and then you can just kind of pull out to the side. I mean, the sky's the limit with this stuff. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. What I'm doing is I'm kind of keeping my elbow in and then pulling out. What you can also do is you can loop this down around your foot, the ball of your foot. And then you can just kind of press down. Now the trick with this stuff, don't let it snap back and hit you in the eyeball. In the face. Yeah, so when we're using the TheraBand, then we're actually working on strengthening. That's a resistance exercise. Yeah. I think that's the end of my part.
Yeah. There's also in the little bag, there's some loop ones in there, so you can look up different exercises for those as well. There's lots of different options.
And the main thing with any exercise, but especially when you're using resistive bands, is it shouldn't hurt. If it hurts, that's too much resistance. Or the thing whatever exercise you're doing, you know, something's bugging you and it's up body parts that you're using. So exercise should never hurt.
Did I hurt your a little? Oh, there's an, okay.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
your face, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, no, I've seen how it works.
Yeah. And then the big thing with the loop, if you're getting it down around your ankles or you're getting it around your knees, just rule number 1 is don't fall.
Yes.
When you're doing exercise, you don't want to hurt yourself while you're doing exercise, so always be careful.
Yeah, the Enright Center has a balance class,
Yeah,
and they have one where you do it sitting in a chair.
yes.
The problem is you eat at 9 in the morning,
Is that too early?
too early to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And so I'm working on my sleep. That's one of the good things that I've learned here,
yeah,
is trying to get sleep. Because when 6 o'clock comes at night, I think it's time to watch TV.
yeah,
But then that goes into, you're in there, you might be up all night watching TV.
yeah, because it never goes away.
So if I want to watch a movie, I watch it during the day.
Nice.
And, because I have no trouble getting up in the morning, I just have trouble going to sleep.
Yeah,
So the doctor did recommend taking Benadryl,
okay,
because she said, prescription's too dangerous.
yeah.
So I thought she probably was referring to my age,
Well, sometimes
which,
medication.
in a way, I think, because you might forget that you've taken it,
Yeah,
and you take it again.
yeah.
So,
Well, sometimes medication interactions too.
yeah,
What I discovered with my phone, with there's a news app on here that I use. It's never ending. There will never be, I'll never read it all ever again. And so it's easy just to get, so I've actually semi-policed myself where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit here for 20 minutes and after 20 minutes I'm putting it away and getting on with my life and not spending my life staring at my cell phone screen.
my phone tells me at 10 o'clock, it gongs, and it says, go to bed by 10:25. Because then my alarm goes off at 7:30 to get, I forget how many hours sleep it is.
Yeah.
So, my phone's telling me what to do now.
Uh-huh. He's using the reminders.
So that might better than my husband.
That's funny. Any questions about all this, all the stuff that we talked about?
No, I like these.
Yeah. The beauty of, thinking about exercise as being an important part of health, that idea has been around for a long time. And the reality is not much has changed. I mean, the more you use your body, the healthier it tends to be. And so the trick is figuring out how do you, are you a morning exerciser? Do you like to exercise right after lunch? Do you like to exercise in the evening? And it's whatever works for you. So you just figure it out.
I just want to throw this out there because I think that exercise has made such a big difference in my life. 3 years ago, I had a major surgery, I had a thoracotomy
Yeah,
and a tumor removed. And after I think I went back after my first appointment after 3 weeks and I was walking and they were amazed. They said, most people are coming in here on walkers
yeah,
or in a wheelchair.
yeah.
But I was exercising before my surgery and I think it really helped me recover. I
Yeah,
mean, it was still not pleasant, but
that's
I
great.
think it really helped.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is the importance of socialization for everything in life, but same thing with exercise. When you're exercising with people, it's just more fun than when you're exercising by yourself for all the reasons. So that's something to consider as well. And sometimes people have workout buddies where they're constantly getting together. Other people have multiple different people or they get in groups. And so sometimes some members of the group are there and sometimes others. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's a couple times a week. But when you have someone to spend the time with, it's not as much, sometimes it's not as much boring. Some people enjoy the solitude. Other people would rather be distracted because it makes the time go by faster. And then you happen to exercise while you're chit-chatting all the time. So that's something else to consider.
I will advocate for jazzercise. I've been
Yeah.
doing that for, what is it now, 14 years? And I started, I was 14 years ago, I was 50 something.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it just, you got the camaraderie.
Uh-huh.
They're doing it online. They started doing some online
Yeah.
during the pandemic, and now they're doing both in person and online.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, you feel energized.
Yeah.
When you move around and
Yeah.
and it's like dancing.
Yeah, right.
So I love it. It's like dancing. Uh-huh.
I don't live in Bloomington, but I would drive there.
Mhm.
Where is it in Bloomington? Where's it?
It's downtown, like 4th and Rogers,
Okay.
where the employment, there's been so many things in that building, but the
Oh,
old employment office was in there at one time.
is it right, it's catty corner from the Rainbow Bakery?
Pardon?
Is it catty corner from the Rainbow Bakery?
Yes, I think it is, yes.
They have one that that meets at Switch Yard Park now too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
sometimes they're doing classes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good.
I started walking my dog in the morning, first thing,
Mhm.
because we didn't have a fence yet when we moved into the house. And it's just become habit.
Yeah.
The first thing I do every morning is walk her before I do anything.
Uh-huh.
That's what I have to do. We adopted a dog that I thought was very calm. And she's not. And so I have to walk
I
her. in the
have
morning.
children like that.
I have to walk her in the morning, otherwise she is absolutely nuts.
Uh-huh.
It's been good for me.
Yeah, and now it's just habit. I
Yeah.
can't imagine morning without it.
Yeah. Adopted a nuts dog.
That's right. I just realized that,
I printed out everything that I'm
Okay,
gonna talk
great.
about, so I don't need, I was
Okay.
thinking about that, I don't really need slides. Yeah, we'll just chit chat.
and I'll hang out for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that will do, so.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, I think Chris kind of mentioned it, is just to find what you like and try new things, because it's gonna be different for everybody. You mentioned jazzercise, I'm kind of the opposite, I want somebody to tell me, you've gotta do 20 squats.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm like, okay, I gotta do 20 of these and then I'm done. I don't want to. Jazzercise and me don't mix. But I know that about myself, so. you know.
Just another thing I want to throw out, because it's really helped, like, I started really, I've done this a long time, but not like I did when I was pandemic, when there was nothing else to do.
Yeah,
They had jazzercise online and then walking, and that was my day, have a walk in, have a jazzercise class. But there was something else I was gonna say, no, I remember.
You'll think of it.
If it comes
Oh, I
back.
know, what a personal trainer, so I
Yeah.
also just recently signed up for a personal trainer at Twin Lakes.
Mhm.
And so I went in there for weights, and in jazzercise, I do 4-pound weights, moving around. So she said, here are those 10-pound weights, pick them up. And I'm like, what? She said, just go ahead and pick them up. And so she said, now move them like this, 5 times like this. And I was using 10-pound weights, and I'm like, I didn't know I could do this. So I guess sometimes you have to push yourself.
Go out to your comfort zone a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think in your packets, you've got some sheets, maybe one of them says SMART goals, that's where I'm gonna start.
As what?
SMART goals worksheet. That's
Really,
Now, what number are you? Oh, good. Almost there.
if it's not in there, I can go make copies real quick, actually.
I'm not finding.
I will go make copies real quick. So talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah,
Great,
they fly great.
yeah. I'll be right back. Okay, well.
Has this been a good class series?
Yes,
Yeah.
Good.
I just think that they should continue it.
I have
Yeah.
the same thought. I would keep coming. I don't know that I want to come. Maybe I would come and keep it. I don't know.
But I missed one, I don't remember why. But it was a good reason, but then it was online, so I wasn't, yeah.
Oh,
It was the yoga one,
The what?
the yoga one.
Was yoga one online? 'Cause I
No,
missed
that
nothing.
was, no, it must
The
have been
sleep
one.
one, was the sleep one?
No, I was, I can't.
Nutrition.
I would go around one.
They're on this website,
Yeah, you have to do the.
Yeah, because that's why we're
this
recording,
website for
And then
this
you can-
program.
watch it later.
Dana has sent us a link, I think.
Well, that yoga one was fabulous.
Yeah.
She
I
told us
missed it
to make
too.
that available, right? I love
yeah,
that.
she was working on it. The last day.
Living with what I do, sometimes I feel like relaxing is impossible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I so bad will want to do that again.
It must have been on the sleep and relaxation, or might have been the one.
Yeah, I missed that too.
That I didn't come to.
One thing I suggested when I talked with Mary Grace yesterday was that they put together a phone list so that, you know,
Oh,
if I
yeah.
say a contact list, so I can say, hey, I'm gonna be at Switchyard Park at 3 o'clock,
Oh,
you know,
that would be
do you-
good. Yeah, that
if
would
you
be
can join me.
Yeah.
That'd be a good time, or like I couldn't remember what the anchor friendship was in the last session. They, you know, just a term, you know, and I
Right.
couldn't remember what it was, you know, I could just whip out the phone list and say, hey, what was that? You know,
The other night I was trying to go through and remember names, and I don't know that.
right, exactly, yeah.
And I-
I keep going around the table doing that myself and I'm
Mhm.
still
Well, I
stumbling.
don't even think I hardly remember anybody's name.
You know what we should do is make those little, and just leave it in your binder, that little, like they do at conferences, where it's like a piece of paper and you just fold it in half and then you just sit there.
Put it in,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Then you can read each other's names. from
We should
across
do
the way.
names again now.
Yeah, I had thought about, I have a name tag, and I had thought about where the.
Mine's on my book.
So you're Mary Lou,
I'm
right?
very, yeah.
Sarah,
Mary Lou.
What?
Sarah,
Sarah.
I do not remember that.
Me either.
And
Oh,
you're
your two names.
Leanne.
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 Leanne, Roberta,
Roberta.
You're one on Pam.
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 Pam. All right, let's do it again.
Yeah, Mary
Yeah,
Lou.
Leanne, Mary Lou,
Sarah,
Sarah, Leanne, and
Roberta.
Roberta.
Robert.
Usually when when I meet somebody, I write their name down and I'll put something that associates with
Uh-huh.
that. And when I first moved into the apartment complex, you know, I thought, oh, all these people, you know. But of course, most people, I forgot your name, that's so common that nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right. I remember yours because I had a friend in high school. named
Oh,
Mary
Mary
Lou.
Lou.
Mary Lou Dosey. And the minute you say Mary Lou, I'm like Mary Lou Dosey.
And,
And then I grew up with a Roberta Weiniger. Are you-
Oh,
Okay,
I know the name.
okay, all right, and so I was like, oh, maybe you're Roberta Weiniger. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
what's her dad, Tim Winter?
her brother. His
Oh,
dad or
brother.
brother? Was it the dad?
The dad,
80s, he would be 80 something.
yeah,
Okay.
I went to high school with him, we graduated together.
Yeah.
And I knew him, because my daughter dated his sons.
Yeah.
You're all Bloomington, like.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for
my
listening.
mom was in
Have a good day.
Crane, Indiana.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
and then,
Alright.
when he retired, then we stayed here in high school. And, my brother and I ended up staying in Indiana, he was in, Indianapolis. Basically stayed in Bloomington, but now I moved to Ellisville.
I have a really close friend who saw it when they, yeah, it's because.
And so that's what got him here. I came in 1946. So to me, Bloomington is my home, but now I have to claim I'm an Ellisville resident now. Only because my boys live there.
And then was it you that brought the Asian bean salad
Yes.
from Blue Foods? I went and picked that up yesterday along with the beets from
Uh-huh.
Paisley Farms. We had that at dinner. Oh my gosh.
It's so good. I haven't
So-
had the beets yet. I have some beets at home.
Yeah, get the beets.
Yeah.
So we're talking about when we had a potluck for the nutrition
Yeah.
class.
Oh, and Stacy.
Yeah.
We went to the library.
Yeah. we went-
Oh, nice.
Then we had a little lunch before, but that was fun.
I forgot to introduce, this is my intern Danielle, so
Hi,
she's
Danielle.
sitting listening, so I forgot to introduce her at the meeting, but. So these are some worksheets that we'll talk about, feel free to, like, let's just chat, I don't wanna lecture at you guys, if this is stuff you already know, or whatever. But I'll talk about all this in the context of physical activity, since that's our topic for today. But a lot of what we're talking about, or what we will talk about, can be applied to any type of behavior change that you're trying to make. I know somebody mentioned sleep. You guys have talked about nutrition. So if there are any behaviors that you guys are trying to change, a lot of this stuff can be applied to that, but I just will use a lot of examples around physical activity because that's kind of my wheelhouse, in the programming that I do. So that's what we'll talk about. Have you guys ever heard of SMART goals before? No? Yes? Yeah, a little
The
bit.
term is familiar, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you.
Never,
Okay. So I'll just go through it then. If you've already heard it, this will all be review,
Refresher, yeah.
refresher. It's all stuff that I academically know, but I could definitely do it in my day-to-day life as well. So again, refresher for me as well. So when you're thinking about physical activity or any goal or any behavior change that you're trying to make, SMART goals are a really, really great way to accomplish that because it breaks it down into a doable task or an actionable item. When we're thinking like, I wanna exercise more. That's a really great goal to have, but what does that even mean? So a SMART goal is a way that you can actually accomplish that. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Realistic can also be rewards based. So the R could be, how am I going to reward myself for this? So specific, your goal should be as specific as possible. It should be answering questions like how, what, when, and where. So an example is going to be not just like I'm going to go for a walk or I'm going to exercise today. It should be like I will walk outside for 15 minutes, 3 days this week. This is saying like what I'm going to do, where I'm going to do it, how long I'm going to do it, and how many days I'm going to do it. So at the end of the week, you can look at your goal and you can say, yes, I did this, or no, I didn't do it. And then you can say, if I didn't do the goal, well, why didn't I do it? Well, the weather was bad, or my schedule was crazy, or I hurt myself, or whatever may be the case. And then you can say, all right, so I had all these barriers, or this happened. So next week, I'm going to change my goal up and I'm going to address these things ahead of time. So goals kind of help us identify our barriers and break those down for the next week. So measure. So how are you going to measure your progress towards your goal? Writing things down, like physically writing things down is the best way that you can do it. A lot of us, I use my phone, I use my smartwatch, but if you actually write things down, there's a lot of research that writing things down makes a brain connection. If you tap it into your phone, there's not actually that brain connection that happens, but actually taking notes.
So I'm telling my husband that, who says, paper and pencil have gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
Type it in your phone.
Yeah,
I like a paper.
I do too, but it's so much easier, it is so easy to grab our phone, everything's on there. And you can put it in your phone I live by the reminders on my phone because they come up on my watch and I'm like, oh, I gotta get to this meeting, I gotta do X, Y, or Z. But also write it down, put it on a calendar somewhere. And then you can mark it on your calendar and then you can physically see on these days I did it. Attainable. So choose a goal that you can achieve and start with something small and you can increase it later. Don't start with something that's super hard for you to do. I always tell people start with what you're already doing. If you're already walking 3 days a week, that's where you start. I know it's not a goal necessarily, but you're already doing it and you're gonna feel good about it. If you start with, I'm gonna go for a walk 5 days a week for an hour, and you're not already doing it, that first week, you're gonna feel really bad about yourself. It's not gonna feel good, you're not gonna have accomplished it, and then you're gonna feel bad, and then it's not gonna set you up for success for the next week. So start with something that you're already doing, so then at the end of the week, you're like, I did it, even if you've already done it, but you're gonna feel good. Also choosing activities that you enjoy and that are doable. If you don't enjoy walking, don't choose walking. You like jazzercise, so choosing jazzercise is going to be good for you. If you don't like lifting weights, don't choose lifting weights. If you don't like going to the gym, don't choose it. It's not going to be an attainable goal for you. So choose things that are gonna bring you joy, bring you happiness. Don't choose things that maybe are outside if the weather is gonna be a barrier. If you know that you hate walking in the rain, and it's gonna be rainy, don't choose that. I know this might seem really obvious, but a lot of, like, I set myself up for failure sometimes, so I'm like, I'm gonna walk outside, and then I look at the weather, and I'm like, it's gonna be rainy, I'm like, oh, but I'm gonna do it anyways. No, I'm not. I hate walking in the rain, and my dog hates walking in the rain, and I need my dog to go for walks, so. Realistic, again, is it something that you're gonna enjoy doing? Is it achievable, that sort of thing? Or if you don't like realistic, because it's very similar to attainable, you can change the R to rewards based. So if you're somebody that likes to reward yourself with, you know, at the end of the month, if I meet my goals, I'm gonna take myself shopping or buy myself something nice or whatever it might be. Try not to use food as a reward. It's just not a great reward system. And then timely. So setting goals on a weekly or a daily basis is a really good thing to do. So don't, a month is too long, but weekly, daily goals is a good time frame. Do you guys have questions on SMART goals or anything to add? Maybe that's worked for you in the past or hasn't worked or
That daily goal thing
daily goal?
is important because, you know, my days differ. Like some days I go into my office and some days I'm out shopping and just different things. And so I'd like have that goal of 10,000 steps for my Fitbit. But there are days that I'm sitting, you know, all day, like today, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah,
So I like that idea on a daily basis based on what you know you're gonna need to do that day.
I think,
Alter your goal.
yeah, and I think that also kind of helps you set your intention for that day. I'm like, this is what my day is gonna look like. And if it's a busy day and you know that maybe, you know, you're not gonna be able to set aside 30 minutes or a chunk of time, but you can get up from your desk once an hour and walk a lap. I'm gonna get up from my desk once an hour, 4 hours, or, you know, 4 of the hours or whatever. That's fine. You know, it doesn't have to look the same every single day or whatever. Any questions or?
Now, one thing that I did during the pandemic is, you know, I really wanted to start walking again once we were allowed to get out and
Yeah.
and start doing stuff. I knew I couldn't go back to the level that I was
Mhm.
before the pandemic, so it was just like walk around, halfway around the neighborhood for a week,
Yeah,
you know, and then walk around the whole neighborhood for another, and then add another loop in there, you know, for another, and it took a long time, but then you work up to that 3 miles a day.
yeah.
So.
I think that can be hard, especially like something like the pandemic of
Mhm.
you're not where you once were,
Right,
but understanding this is where I am now, this is what I'm
yeah,
gonna do.
and don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
can be really hard.
I could not go walk the 3 miles a day.
So yeah,
So why
accept,
do it?
yeah, accept where you're at. This is my starting point and then go from there
Mhm.
like that. So the second page, reward yourself. So I feel like rewarding yourself for achieving your goals is definitely an often, or it's difficult and it's overlooked. But it can really help you increase your motivation. It can help you stay focused on achieving the goals, especially if maybe you haven't been meeting your goals or if you're starting to get discouraged. So figuring out what is going to be motivational or meaningful for you. I've listed some examples, but these might not be motivational or meaningful for you at all. These are just some things that I found. So I put some space down here for you guys to come up with ideas for yourselves. But plan your rewards and plan some goals for yourself. So do you have a short-term goal? And maybe what could be a meaningful reward for you and what is your long-term goal? And this does not have to be around physical activity if you don't want it to be, it can be around something completely different. You guys were talking about traveling, so I mean, that in and of itself, I feel like is a reward. But so saving up for that or something like that. So are there some short-term, long-term goals that you guys could set? And you don't have to do this today or right now if you don't want to. But option for you. Another sheet that I included is a personal barriers and benefits sheet. I feel like, especially with physical activity, there can be a lot of barriers to activity, but identifying those barriers, but then also those benefits. So listing a couple of different ways, I've put 5, but there may be more, there may be less. So what are some ways that you feel like that you can benefit from activity? But then also, what are the barriers that you feel like are standing in your way? And it could be mental, emotional, physical. It could also be, I feel like maybe I don't have the time. But I feel like as you're identifying barriers, also breaking those barriers down. So if you feel like you don't have the time, how can you break that down a little bit? So you mentioned you have days that you're sitting a lot. So yes, that's true, but then how can you maybe break that down? So maybe I can get up a little bit more often in my day. Or could I get up a little bit earlier? I know that's been my challenge. I have been trying to get up a little bit earlier to get my dog out for a walk because I was, sleeping in until 8 o'clock in the morning and I didn't really need to sleep in that long. So identifying some of those barriers, can you break down some of those? Some of them you're not going to be able to. Some of them are just going to be barriers, and that's okay. But then also listing those benefits, and so then how can you increase your activity? Because if it's important to you, you'll make it happen.
Well, I've been having back pain, and so sometimes going out to walk the dog, and I'm out there trying to bend backwards, because that was one of the exercises I had learned, was to try to bend. So I don't know, I'm hoping nobody's looking around, when I'm doing that.
Yeah,
But then when I come in, I put an ice bag on my back, and that helps.
yeah,
But I really think if I did more exercises, I think that would be much better for my back than sitting in that chair
yeah.
like I do. So, that would be, one of my goals, is to
Yeah.
try to quit sitting in that chair so much.
Yeah, so thinking of ways that maybe you can incorporate those and doing it little by little.
Right.
Because I think sometimes we're like, oh, I need to do more of these. And then you're like, I'm gonna do them every single day. I'm gonna spend all this time, and then we try to get super gung ho about it. And then we kind of let it fall to the wayside because we try to do too much too fast. And then maybe you overdo it a little bit, or at least I know that's how I am. I don't know if anybody else is. So maybe just doing a little bit at a time and trying to build
And I
that.
was really into walking quite a few years ago. I was walking 3 miles, maybe not every day, but at least 3 or 4 times. And my goal was to try to learn to run a mile.
Yeah.
Way I learned it, but it didn't take. I didn't
Yeah.
really enjoy running.
Yeah.
So I went back to walking.
Yeah. And I liked what you said about, you had walked 3 miles a day or whatever, and then the pandemic hit, and then you just started with that little bit. So
Yeah.
maybe just starting with that little bit. You don't have to do it all at once, but maybe just, hey, I'm gonna walk down the street and then back, or to my mailbox and back, or whatever.
Well, I walk around the middle of that's junior high, and also if from the apartment and walk around the school, it's a half a mile.
Mhm.
Well, now the dog is, is not walking too good, so I'm gonna have to do that without him.
Mhm.
And as long as I give him a treat before I leave, he's okay with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So some of my exercise is gonna change because of his age.
yeah,
Something that I have exercises for my back, because I have done physical therapy for my, I do them when I watch TV.
yeah,
And I just, it's a goal that I set to like somewhere get 30 minutes while I'm watching TV before the news comes on.
mhm,
And that way I get out of the chair, I'm not sitting in the chair, and I'm doing it
that's a good idea.
while I watch TV.
So, brainstorm some things that might
Yeah.
work, and some things might not work. You might try that and think, try it for a week and see.
Well, I
see
thought
what it
I'd check
takes.
some YouTube and Google back exercises.
Yeah,
Because it's just in the middle of my back, and so, I need to find out why I know I have to be really careful bending over,
yeah, And that might be one of those things where you check with your doctor or physical therapist first and just make sure that you're doing the right things.
Because I bend over and pick stuff up off the floor. So my sister-in-law said, get one of those grabbers.
Mhm.
And she said, next time you come visit me, I'll show you my grabber. So I think they have them at Walmart. So that's gonna be one of my goals is to get a grabber.
Yeah, I've got one of those too.
The trick is to bend your knees, not your back.
Yeah, and I don't. I bend over with my knees, kind of straight.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to squat, to pick up stuff now. It doesn't always work.
Yeah,
I forget.
yeah. So,
And that happened with my dog too. My dog is older now,
Yeah.
and he can't go for the walks, and when I leave without him, he cries.
Oh,
and
does he?
cries and
Oh.
cries. Just have to go anyway.
I know.
that's hard. I have an older dog and a much younger dog, and the younger dog I have to take the walks, the older one. She
But they're.
She wants nothing to do with it. We're just like, oh, when I need to play.
Please take me.
Yeah, take it away.
But there's a lot of dogs in the apartment complex and they're all small. And I know if I walked up to one of them and said, can I take your dog for a walk today? They would say, here's the leash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had thought about maybe doing that.
Good idea.
I think that's a great idea. You'd be helping somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like all those.
Because I find the dogs, I talk to my dog, you're not somebody else, but I talk to my dog.
Oh, yeah. If you happen to stumble or something, you tell the dog you're sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I
Oh,
said
yeah.
on the leash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of stumble her, yeah. I point out the birds that we're seeing.
But I'm not the only person who does that because I do all of those things. Another sheet that I put in here was sometimes negative thoughts can get in the way. I don't know
Oh,
if you
yeah.
guys have this issue. I know that I do, especially with my activity. So trying to put a spin on the negative thoughts. And so first identifying the negative thought, deciding whether or not it's right or wrong. Usually, most of the time, the negative thought is wrong. And then trying to counter that negative thought with something that's more accurate and a positive response, and then trying to make a plan to get back on track. So something, this is an eating example, but a very, popular thought, I guess, is, I've already missed 4 days of healthy eating. I'm just going to skip the rest of the week. I don't know if anybody else is guilty of these types of things, or, I had a really unhealthy snack. So just who cares the rest of the day? I'm just going to whatever. But more positive thought is, I'm just going to get right back on track by eating breakfast and packing a healthy lunch, or, eating healthy 3 days a week is better than not at all. Or I've blown it all week. I'm such a failure. I'm never going to be able to follow this plan. That's a negative thought. Something a little bit more positive is, I've missed the mark a couple of times this week. Not the end of the world. Does not mean I'm a failure. I'll just do better next time, or I'll get back on track. So I'm very guilty of a lot of these negative thoughts and just, who cares? I'll just sit on the couch the rest of the day. But just really trying to think, that's not the end of the world. Or, my one is, if I can't go for a 30-minute walk, who cares? Like Chris said, a little bit is better than none at all. So a 5-minute walk is better than 0 minutes of walk. So might as well just go for 5 minutes rather than 30 minutes. So just doing something rather than nothing. So trying to combat these negative thoughts or identifying them and just replacing it with something a little bit more positive. Again, writing these things down is really, really helpful. If you can identify it, write it down, put a little bit more positive thought, trying to write out those positive thoughts as much as possible. And then planning ahead as much as possible too, I think can really help with these negative thoughts that you may have. I find this circle to be really helpful as well. It's kind of this like reframe, rename idea. I don't know about you, but I tend to get in these cycles of maybe bad habits of, I don't want to call it laziness, or maybe inactivity is a better word. Where, yeah, these negative thoughts kind of get in the way of like, oh, here's, I may as well not even do it because I started out that way. But figuring out where maybe you can break the cycle. So I've got this top circle where I said, I didn't feel well, I couldn't sleep, And then I woke up and the weather was bad, so I couldn't go for a walk. And then I didn't do any activity, and then I felt sluggish all day, and then I couldn't sleep well, and then the cycle just kind of continues, you know, the cycle of just feeling blah. I think you might have mentioned the same kind of thing of sitting on the couch and maybe then you just keep watching TV. But you know, maybe somebody else mentioned it. You'll watch TV and then you know you'll feel better. and you
Yeah,
go
if
for a
you wake
walk.
up and it's raining out, you might as well just sit and watch. TV
Yeah.
all day.
You know, you feel better if you go for the walk, but then, oh, something's on TV, so I'm just gonna sit there and watch TV. But where can you kind of break that cycle? And usually it's where you say you can't go for the walk, usually it's right there. Maybe I'll just go for the 5-minute walk anyways. And then you did a little bit of activity and I felt a little better. And then I slept a little bit better. And then you notice that the cycle kind of changes a little bit. So this blank circle is here where you can maybe identify if you have a cycle that you tend to get into and where can you break that cycle. Somebody mentioned where they took a photo of themselves, or it was mentioned that you took a photo of yourself. That might help break a cycle, because if you notice, if you've got a physical reminder that you feel better after you're active, that might help break a cycle of inactivity. Other things that can help are if you write it down. So I know trackers are just on our watches, but if you actually write down, went for a 5-minute walk, felt great. You know, went to jazzercise, was feeling sluggish beforehand, went to jazzercise, really energetic afterwards. If you start to write those things down, it makes a connection in your brain of how you feel with activity. And it might help change that cycle a little bit too. So that's what this little worksheet is for, to maybe help change those cycles a little bit. But also recognize too that the intention is never for perfection. Some days you just need to sit there. Some days your body needs rest. So understanding the difference between, is this a habit of me just sitting around doing nothing, or does my body need me to sit around and do nothing? So there's kind of a difference there. Does this all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I started to talk at you a little bit too much, and so. And then this last sheet, developing helpful habits and preventing bad ones. Just some other ideas, setting up triggers and cues for helpful habits. These are some ideas, but you might have some different ideas. So, you know, having your gym bag packed in the car, ready to go anytime. So, you know, if you get done with a busy day, if you have a gym membership, rather than going straight home, you know, you can go to the gym. Avoiding triggers and cues for bad habits, keeping snacks out of sight, that type of thing. Keeping your list of reasons to change and referring to that list. So kind of that the benefits and barriers lifestyle. So if you want to keep your list of, hey, why am I making these changes again? Oh yeah, because I feel better when I'm active, or I feel better when I do these things. I feel better when I go to bed at a decent hour, that type of thing. Staying busy with activities that are rewarding, you know, trying to think about situations a little bit differently. Practice. Like none of this comes, it might come easy to some people. For me, it doesn't always come easy. So practice makes perfect. Well, not perfect, practice makes better. You know, avoid paralysis by analysis, try not to overthink it too much. I know there's a lot of different things here to give you some different ideas, but you know, dealing with relapse, you know, just moving beyond that all or nothing thinking. Nothing's gonna be perfect and that's okay. But turning to your support troops. So like Chris was talking about, having friends, family, people that you like to do these things with. If there's a group of your friends that you guys all like to walk together, or go to different classes together, or do these types of things together. Self-monitoring, everybody here's got their watches or their phones. I feel like those can be really helpful when you're goal setting, that sort of thing. Setting new goals, reviewing your goals. You know, is it something that you've been doing for a while? You need to try something new. You can get bored. So if you feel like you're bored with your routine, you want to try something new, spice it up a little bit. And then, yeah, focusing on your strengths. You know, if you feel like you're in a rut or things aren't going well, look back to a time where things were going well. What were you doing at that time? What did you do at that time that made it go well? And then just look it up. Do you guys have any questions or comments or advice?
I guess the thing that when it says was going off track, it's always for me when I'm on vacation. It's so hard to
Yeah,
stay on track,
yeah,
you know, because you're not in your normal situation.
yeah, you're
I
not.
don't know if anybody else has that problem, has any suggestions.
I think, I don't know, this is my opinion, but I feel like it's okay to go off track when you're on vacation.
That's what I'm saying.
Like-
I allow myself off track. on meditation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could just let myself go off track.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not usually like eat something totally obnoxious every night or something, but yeah, treats and
I mean,
I don't have my dog with me, so I may not look quite the same.
in the grand scheme of things, it's 10 days a week. However, in the grand scheme of things, that's really not that long. It's not gonna make or break your health or your life or whatever. It's not. It's not gonna make a huge difference. That's my philosophy. Enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
You don't wanna look back and think, oh, I didn't enjoy these things because I was trying to be perfect or to, you know, I don't know. You wanna enjoy it. You wanna enjoy life, you wanna enjoy vacation.
Maybe plan it, like, you know. All right, so a couple of days, I can just totally forget about it.
Yeah.
And then for a couple of days, I'm gonna just kind of be moderately
Yeah, make sure you go on that walk that day.
and walk. See, that I do a lot of times on vacation, I'll walk.
Yeah,
You have to be nice to yourself.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I played cards on Monday night, it's not that I enjoy it, but they keep asking me and then I decided it's social.
Mhm.
And so like I went last night, one woman brings cookies and I ate cookies, so what,
Yeah,
you know?
Mm-hmm.
That just means I don't have cookies in my house anymore.
yeah.
And so the thing that kept me stay in the store
Mm-hmm.
and,
I think the big thing too is to be kind to yourself and to understand that there are several different kinds of health. There's physical, there's emotional, there's social, there's mental, there's spiritual. There's all these different types of health. So the cookies are social,
Yeah.
emotional, whatever. And so who cares if they're not the most nutritious thing in the world?
she said, well, they work, they're sugar free though.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. I mean, again, they're not gonna make or break,
No.
you know, if you're eating cookies for every single meal, every single day,
No.
maybe, but times a week.
But you know, I know what is my weakness and I love butter and crackers, you
Yeah.
know, and so, I just don't buy crackers anymore, because I can eat the whole sweet,
Yeah.
you know, in one sitting. So, but and I live alone with a dog, so I don't have to buy food for
Right,
other people, you know,
one cracker for you, one for him.
yeah.
Don't do that, sorry. I say enjoy vacation.
Okay.
You have my permission,
Thank you.
my official permission.
Now, what's your name again?
Katie.
Katie, okay, Katie said you could.
Okay.
I've got a badge that makes it official, right? So. I hope this was helpful, I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
It is.
I really like that cycle breaking.
Yeah.
So are you guys gonna be on vacation next week?
Yes.
I'm gonna be gone.
And I will, hopefully I will be in North Royalton, Ohio. For my youngest grandchild is graduating high school. I didn't get to go because the dog got sick last Friday, so I said I can't take a sick dog to Cleveland, you know. I say Cleveland because people don't know where North Royalton is.
Yeah.
And I missed, you know, I was really mad at myself, but you know, that happens and, you know, I just thought, what if I take him up there and then, you know, you can't get into vets anymore.
Yeah.
If you're a new patient, they're not taking them because they're,
Yeah.
it's, if you have a child that wants a good career, tell them to go to vet school.
Yeah, for real.
But I think it's 4 years of college and then 4 years of vet school. So, man, I didn't realize they have to go to school so much.
Will you be at the Tibetan Center?
No, I'm not gonna be there.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here because I have surgery on Thursday. And I'm gonna be recuperating, and if I'm feeling well enough, I'm gonna come, and if I'm not, then I won't.
Will you be at the Tibetan Center?
I'm gonna be in California.
You're gonna be in
On my
California.
way, Tuesday is my day.
They
of
may need to
flight.
reschedule.
So you're gonna be here next week or you won't be here?
Yeah.
No, you're gonna miss the last two.
Yeah, I'll be back for the,
Because then I'll be in California, I'll be coming home the next Tuesday. And so, which
yeah.
now I'm really sad, time I thought, I don't know. I wish we need to have reunions.
Yeah.
So you're gonna miss the last two too?
No, I'll be here. I'm just missing one.
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I'll be here for the last class.
I'll be here.
And I've already got my appointment for the.
Oh,
3 days.
Oh, I don't. How did you?
Click on the,
Mine told me there was no access, I couldn't make an
Oh,
appointment.
I did. Yeah.
So how did you do it?
Well, in
I
my
don't remember.
email, there was a website, you know, and I
Dana
just
sent a
clicked on
link.
that.
Then you
Yeah.
sent a link and then you picked a time.
Okay, I guess I better go back because
Yeah.
sometimes my junk, that goes to my junk or something.
Mine wouldn't let me do it, it told me I didn't have access, and I don't maybe.
What's your name?
Dana.
What's your name?
Pam.
Pam, I can let her know that yours didn't work. Did you already let her know? or-
Leanne.
I let Dana know,
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to do 3 to 4 in the afternoon. Yeah, it wouldn't, it just told me I had no access.
Okay,
Huh.
but most of you are not gonna be here next week.
right.
Okay, does she know that
I'm
already?
gonna be here.
You're gonna be here, okay.
Is tomorrow the Tibetan Center?
No, the last one is.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just double check with her that she doesn't. want to
Okay.
work, that you will be here.
So you'll be here for
Oh,
the
am
Tibet.
I gonna miss 2 then? No, I wouldn't. Oh, okay,
June the 7th is the last one.
I'll be here June 7th.
Okay, I'll be flying up. then.
I'm hoping I'll be back. I get up there and who knows?
So
I just
I,
have to make sure I don't fall when I'm out there.
I'm curious, I know this is a pilot, are they gonna do it again? Could we like re-up?
I think so.
Well, they said.
I don't
that
know.
they-
Or would
answer
they
to that,
be
but I-
repeating again what we've done this time?
Probably, I'm sure there's gonna be some tweaks.
Okay.
Um,
So we need to have like B program part 2?
yeah,
Well, didn't they have a control group? I thought they had
Oh.
control group and us.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I think, from what I would, believe it or not, I remember, that they said that they would let the control group take this course.
Okay.
I was supposed to be in that group and then somebody couldn't be in the pilot
Oh.
program, so I got to be in this.
Oh, this one, yeah, I don't know. I said, no, I need this program. I don't want it to be the control.
Well, it was filled, so
Yeah.
that's why I had to do the other one.
But,
I'll have to go because someone's kicking me out.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess we're out of time.
I'm on a time crunch here.
This has been really good.
but I think this is a great program. I mean, it's really helps me a lot.
I'm curious, does anybody else do these journals? I have not touched. them.
No, I try, but I don't.
I have zero interest in them.
Me too, I did a little bit, and then it's not my thing.
Right,
And that's good feedback.
right, well,
Yeah,
I have suggested probably in a way.
see you.
Bye.
Have fun.
Thank you. The process so broad is to take me nowhere.
Oh, the question.
I just found myself saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
again, So I just decided it's not worth it.
Right, and actually, I would suggest, talk to a secondary teacher who's had the right prompts for kids. Try to give us each something very different and specific to think about.
Okay,
I mean, I even, ideas come to me in my brain. If it were more specific, I might sit down and answer the question, but to just say set goals. I don't know, it's like, I don't know where to go. It has no appeal.
yeah, that's very broad.
Yeah. And
I
so
needed a little more direction, I think, as well, because
Because I think.
I was a teacher too.
Yeah, when we were doing the food one, like keep a food diary or discuss very specific about what do you eat that you think is healthy, do you know it's healthy, or I don't know, just give us very specific things to work on, because when it's so vague,
Okay,
I know where to go.
I was a little lost.
okay. That's good. I mean, that's really good feedback.
I need to run too, so bye. Have a good time on your vacation.
I think,
Yeah, you too.
I'm not a wonderful.
Well, mine's not till July, so
Oh,
I'll be
July.
here the next couple weeks.
So I hope we do this again and again, or at least get together.
Like a follow-up. I was in a group quite a few years ago, and they recommend us do journals, and I tried then, and I don't know, I just didn't get into it. Some people are really good at journaling, or have years and years and years of journaling.